So I've had quite a few questions about how this MIDI controlled rig works and kind of how it's all rigged up. So I figured I'd go ahead and give you guys a quick run through about how it's all wired together and kind of what this permits me to do. So basically this whole thing is controlled by it starts with a Midi Mongoose. So this is just kind of standard issue MIDI controller. Cable runs out of the Midi Mongoose into the side of the temple board. I've got a lead running from underside of the temple board to the front of the HX Stomp. MIDI goes out of the HX Stomp all the way over to the MorningStar, and then out of the back of the MorningStar into the back of the 5150. The pedal board is hooked up to the 5150 in 4-cable method. So basically I've got I have control in front of and behind the amp, power amp section and preamp section. If for whatever reason I don't have the 5150 with me, I can bypass that by plugging a patch cable between those two ports there, and then plugging the patch cable that's currently unplugged over here into the effects return, and that will complete the circuit to get the audio out to the Baby Bomb, which is a 30-watt power amp. So basically from this pedal board by itself, I can run a cab, or if I want to lug the amp along with me, I can do that too. To keep sound consistent, I basically decided to go with a Radar IR loader, even though the HX Stomp can load its own IRs. The main reason for that is so that way I can have a consistent output, and then I can have basically switch all of my IRs with a single knob. Unlike a lot of people, I kind of just like to find the one or two that work for me, and they work in almost all scenarios, but never all scenarios. So that way I can kind of switch between those two depending on my mood or kind of the other environment I'm playing in. I hook into this whole system with a Boss wireless unit right now. I'm probably gonna switch out to a Sennheiser, but I like the Boss one okay. Just doesn't play well with my 9-string. The MorningStar switcher basically is what allows me to put stuff in front of or behind the amplifier. So in front of the amp, I've got an empty patch bay here that I can push a pedal in front of the amp if I wanna try something out. I've got the Tubescreamer because it's metal and that's what we do. I've then split this loop in the middle. You can see where it says split loop there. That split loop will let me put the Horizon Devices preamp in front of the power amp of the 5150, bypassing the 5150's preamp. So it kind of adds for just a completely different sound if I want to switch it up with something else. I use it in a couple of lead sounds because it's kind of nice to have just a different texture altogether. I can also do that with the HX Stomp. I just haven't really got around to doing that yet. All of my patches have a 5150, whatever the line 6 equivalent is, in there, but it's turned off. So that way, since I'm using the real amp most of the time, I don't have to hear it, but if I leave the amp at home, I can just flip that on and all of a sudden all my patches sound correct. So basically from this pedal board, I can run a cab, I can run direct to a board, I can record straight out through USB, I can add pedals, remove pedals, I can hook up expression pedals if I wanted to have a wah. It just makes it super versatile, super easy to use, and you kind of feel like James Bond when you hit a button on your MIDI controller and everything just switches around. It's pretty cool. There's an itty bitty tiny bit of delay between switching patches. That's just something that I think all amps you kind of have to deal with in one way or another. It's a little more pronounced when there's this much gear in the chain, but I'm still working on some of that. But yeah, please let me know if you have any questions, anything you'd like clarified. I'm going to continue to do some more gear reviews on these individual pieces in the future, and kind of give you some more insight into why I decided to do the pedal board this way. Feel free to like, subscribe, or if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. DadBodMetalGod, rock on.